Oh my gosh, this if you've seen Coming to America, you know the scene where Hakim and his best friend gets the job at Lisa's dad's restaurant, like fast food chain. Doesn't this hat remind you of that? Because I literally just had a moment when I was like, wait, why do I look like Hakim from Coming to America? Like, why? Why? That was not intentional. What's up and welcome back to my channel. Today in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make this cool chic and Parisian inspired beret. This is one of the pieces from my first collection, and the great thing about this piece is I basically just used scraps of fabric that I had left over from making some garments in the past. I show you how to make the pattern in the first half of this video, and then I show you how to cut and sew the pieces all together, so you basically have everything all together in this video ready for you to go. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get straight into the tutorial. To create this piece, I'm going to be working with the following materials. I have my fabric as well as my pattern tools ready to go. I have my marker pen, fabric and paper scissors, my tape measure, my pattern paper, some pins, as well as my pattern master to draw my pattern lines. I'm going to be using this fabric, which is actually leftover pieces from my first collection. I also got some matching lining in blue, as well as some thread to sew this beret together. For the best outcome, I highly recommend you measure around your head or that of your client using a tape measure. I'm just measuring around to get a head circumference, which we are going to be applying to the pattern piece. So ensure you measure behind your ears for a fit that is nice and smooth around the head. So for my measurement, I ended up with 22.5 inches, and I'm going to be dividing that measurement by 7, and that's because the beret has 7 panels. So if I divide my 22.5 by 7, I will end up with 3 inches, which is what I'm going to be applying to create the pattern piece for the beret body itself. The first pattern piece we're going to be creating is the pattern piece for the actual body of the beret, and the first line I'm drawing in here is a vertical line that measures 20 centimeters or 8 inches. And remember that 3 inches that we ended up with after dividing our head circumference, that is going to become the base length of this shape. So I'm just marking 1.5 inch on both sides of the vertical line. Now up this vertical line I've marked 5 inches, and I'm going outwards from that 5-inch point by 3 inches because we want to create a sort of oval shape that is wide in the middle and tapers in towards the top and the bottom. So using my pattern master, I'm just drawing in this shape carefully so it's nice and smooth, and because I want it to be symmetrical on both sides, I'm going to fold this piece through that vertical line in half, and with a tracing wheel transfer that curve to the other side of the paper. If your paper is transparent, you can just turn this the other way around and trace it over with your marker pen and your pattern master or your French curve. Because mine isn't, I'm using my tracing wheel to do this here. So once I've punctured those holes on the reverse side of this paper, I'm just using my pattern master and my pen to draw in the curve, so I have a shape that is identical on both sides. So I'm just going in here carefully to finish up this side of the shape, and it should look somewhat like a leaf shape, like this. So I'm adding 2 notches on both sides like so my life is a whole lot easier when I'm cutting on fabric. I went ahead to add a 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around, and you would need to cut 7 pieces of this pattern piece, because by the time you join each side of this leaf shape together, you have the body of your beret. So now that we have the body done, we can go ahead and create the piece for the band that sits across the bottom. I'm drawing a band that measures about 22.5 inches, which is my head circumference, and is about 3 inches wide. I suggest don't make it too wide, else it's really sort of like broad across your head. So anything from 1 inch to 3 inches works in terms of width. So I'm just going in here to draw in my rectangular shape like so. And don't forget to add a 1 centimeter or half an inch seam allowance on both sides of the end, because you want to be able to join this band together to make a circular piece that sits into the body of your beret. So I'm just going in here to add my grain line, any annotations I need to remember. You just need to cut one piece of this particular pattern here because it's just going to sit across the bottom of your beret. Oh, by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, this is your chance to do so. Click the red subscribe button down below. So once we have all of our pattern pieces cut and ready to go, we can actually go ahead and cut these pieces on fabric. So because I just wanted to be smart and quick about this, I literally folded my fabric into several layers until I had about 8 pieces or so it was a really chunky piece to cut. So I just cut everything in one go, and then I cut my band piece as well, and also my lining pieces using the pattern for the body. So you should have 7 pieces for your main fabric, 7 pieces for your lining, and one piece for your band that goes across your head. So when it's time to sew, the first thing we're going to be doing is to sew the beret body itself, and I'm going to put pairs joining right sides together like this. So I have a pair put to the side. I'm going to create another pair, putting 2 right sides together, and you should end up with 3 pairs and 1 spare piece. This is going to make joining the pieces together go a whole lot quicker. So I'm going to join up just one side of each pair like so, and then come back and join them going forward. So now sewing on a 1 centimeter seam allowance, I'm starting from the bottom, working my way to the top. And now that I've joined up my 3 different pairs, I'm going to grab this piece like so and connect it to just one side of the other pair. So you want to leave one side open so you're able to join the other pieces of the body of the beret. And when you stitch at that tip of the beret edge, you want to stop 1 centimeter before the edge, so it allows you to join corresponding pieces onto that top edge of your beret. So now that I've pinned these pieces in place, I'm going to take them to my machine. You should have 6 panels at this point that you've either joined together or pinned together, remaining 1 that you need to add in place. So I'm just finishing up this stitch like so, and this is what my beret is looking like. I recommend at this point that you actually press your seams open while it's still exposed like this, because it's easier to press in this state. Don't be like me that waited till the end. After joining my last panel here, as you can see, I've just pinned in my last panel on both sides of the other pieces that we had joined, and I'm going to be stitching them in place. So like I said earlier on, because we have been leaving 1 centimeter sort of open on the previous edge of that top edge in place, you are able to stitch it easier. I hope that makes sense. So now I'm just going in here to press all of my seams open with an iron. It takes a lot of time to do this, but it will just look a lot nicer and sit a lot sort of rounder and fuller on your head if you actually press all of your seams in place. So this is what my main beret piece is looking like, and I'm going to set this to the side while I sew all of my lining pieces together. So following a similar method that we did with the main body, we are going to be joining 3 pairs on one side alone. And once you joined those pairs in place, remember putting right sides together, you can go back and connect these pairs on one side alone. So I'm going to start with this set here. I'm going to join this end starting from the bottom, working my way to the top, and then I'm going to actually grab that spare piece or the 7th piece, and I'm going to connect it to the 3rd one. It doesn't really matter what order you do it in. What matters that just doing them in pairs at the beginning just makes it a lot quicker in terms of assembly. So I'm going to take this to my machine, and I'm going to be sewing on a 1 centimeter seam allowance, connecting any spare points together. So I'm working my way up like so, not forgetting to do my back stitch when I reach the end. And this is what I should have at this point in time. I have 4 panels joined on one side and 3 panels joined on the other side. So with one stitch, I'm going to connect these 2 sets together, so we have one lining piece that we can actually join to the main body of the beret. I'm going to take this my machine and stitch from one end to the other on a 1 centimeter seam allowance, sewing ever so slowly. And when I reach the very top of the beret, I sew right across so I don't have any hole or like puckering places showing there. So this is what my beret lining looks like after giving it a quick press, and I'm going to work on the band. So for the band, you're going to put right sides together, and I'm going to be stitching up the open side. So we have a tunnel. I'm going to be sewing on a 1 centimeter seam allowance, which is what I added on my pattern piece, and then I'm going to take this to my iron and press that seam open. After pressing it open like so, I'm going to fold it in half and I'm going to iron all the way across, so we have a smooth edge that would actually be the side of the beret that you would see across your head. So once you have this band pressed, we can actually join all 3 pieces together. So we're going to be joining the beret body, the lining and the band all together with one seam. So I'm going to grab my lining piece and I'm going to be putting the main beret body itself in like so, so that the raw edges and the seams are concealed on the inside. And then I'm going to get that band, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be placing the band inside of the piece here, and what we're going to be doing is pinning the beret body, the lining and the band all together around this circular opening like so. Just ensure that when you are pinning, you don't have any extra measurement that would create any weird gathering when you are sewing. So ensure that everything actually matches and everything actually aligns before you start sewing. The worst that can happen is you start stitching and you realize that something was too big or something was too small and you have to unpick and start all over again. It's literally a nightmare. So I'm just making my way to the end of this seam before going ahead to overlock that stitched seam in place to just finish it off nicely, so we have a professionally finished beret even on the inside as well. Feel free to give this an additional press and then try it on to check that it actually fits you and you're happy with the outcome. So this is what a finished product look like. I have made this so many times and it's always a dream to create, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and I actually can't wait to see your own recreation of this style. Make sure to tag me if you do so at Kim Dave Designs, and until my next video, have a good morning, afternoon and evening wherever you are. Bye.